In a major development, the International Criminal Court has issued arrest warrants for two senior Taliban leaders, accusing them of crimes against humanity in connection with the systematic persecution of women and girls in Afghanistan. The ICC's decision marks the first time gender based oppression in the country has been formally recognized as grounds for international legal action. The move is being seen as a critical step in holding the Taliban accountable for policies that have effectively erased women from Afghan public life. Since returning to power in August 2021, the Taliban have imposed one of the harshest regimes for women in the modern era. Afghan women have been systematically stripped of their rights. Amid this grim reality, the International Criminal Court has issued arrest warrants for two senior Taliban leaders, Hebatullah Akhundzada, the group's supreme leader, and Abdul Hakim Haqqani, Chief Justice of the Taliban's de facto regime. The court noted that there are reasonable grounds to believe the two leaders ordered and enforced policies that deprived Afghan women and girls of basic human rights, including access to education, employment, public life, freedom of movement and expression. The arrest warrants relate to actions carried out between the Taliban's return to power in August 2021 and January 2025, when the ICC's chief prosecutor officially filed the case.
I think very important. For the first time, ICC is taking a position on gender issue, and this should be appreciated. Particularly considering the fact that in Afghanistan, a lot of gender-related issues are now coming up. Women are being marginalized. They are not being allowed to go to schools after class 6. They are not allowed to go to public. A woman in Afghanistan cannot go out on her own. She has to be accompanied with a male member. So these kind of a thing which was going on in Afghanistan, and many of us were very critical about it. I am glad that ICC has finally taken a note of it and issued a very strict, a warning against these people.
Since their return to power, the Taliban have issued more than 80 edicts curbing women's rights. These include bans on secondary and higher education for girls, prohibition on women working in most sectors, and restrictions on their presence in public places such as parks, gyms, and sports clubs. Female journalists have been silenced, and laws that once offered protection from violence, forced marriage, and abuse have been suspended. For many Afghan women, daily life has become a struggle for basic existence under a government that refuses to recognize their identity. A 2024 Afghanistan Gender Index released by UN Women and supported by the EU revealed that nearly 80% of young Afghan women are not in education, employment, or training. The report further highlighted that no women currently serve in any formal decision-making positions under the Taliban's de facto administration.
Afghan women are marginalized to an extent possible by the Taliban. They have a very different kind of understanding about women. They are not allowing even the girls to be in school. Forget about the colleges and universities. They are not allowed to be a part of any jobs. Earlier and before Taliban, the women of Afghanistan were doing well. There's no one who is in the cabinet. There is no voices of the women right now in Afghanistan. And moreover, the way they are implementing all those rules, it's becoming impossible.
In June 2025, a United Nations report accused the Taliban of turning Afghanistan's justice system into a tool of oppression. It cited the suspension of laws that once protected women from violence, including rape and forced marriage.
At the same time, the international community remains
International agencies and humanitarian organizations have also raised concerns over threats received by female UN staff members and the obstruction of women-led NGOs and aid missions. Amnesty International has urged the global community to classify the Taliban's actions as gender apartheid and recognize such systems as violations of international law.
Now ICC has given a verdict, and this will help other international organizations to formulate their policy response against Taliban on this issue. So I'm very glad, very happy that ICC came up with this thing, and it will certainly going to strengthen international organization to be more stringent and strict towards Taliban in order to deal with the gender issue.
The Taliban's top leadership, including Akhundzada and Haqqani, are now facing international legal scrutiny for their roles in institutionalizing gender oppression. The ICC's action is being viewed as a test of the international community's willingness to respond meaningfully to prolonged and systematic human rights violations in Afghanistan.